The fall, our source, and the location of our quote. Our quote in an 1857 Part 2 first edition, as it appears on Google Books. Returning to our source and quote. As the old traditions of their ancestors were gradually distorted, the Hindus appear to have identified the first man, Manu Swayambhuva, with Brahma himself, of whom as of the primary cause he was the brightest emanation, while Satarupa, the wife and counterpart of Manu, was similarly converted into the bride of the creative principle itself. Brahma, in other words, was confounded with the male half of his individuality, so that the narratives which in sacred history relate to Adam and Eve were not unfrequently transferred to Brahma and to his female counterpart, Satarupa, or according to a different form, Saraswati. Brahma, thus humanized, is said to have become the subject of temptation. To try him, Siva, who is in the present story identified with the Supreme Being, drops from heaven a blossom of the sacred vata, or Indian fig, a tree which has been always venerated by the natives on account of its gigantic size and grateful shadow, and invested alike by Brahmin and by Buddhists with mysterious significations as the tree of knowledge or intelligence, Bodhidharma. Captivated by the beauty of this blossom, the first man, Brahma, is determined to possess it. He imagines that it will entitle him to occupy the place of the immortal, and hold converse with the infinite. And on gathering up the blossom, he at once becomes intoxicated by this fancy, and believes himself immortal and divine. But ere the flush of exaltation has subsided, God himself appears to him in terrible majesty, and the astonished culprit, stricken by the curse of heaven, is banished far from Brahmapatana, and consigned to an abyss of misery and degradation. From this, however, adds the story, an escape is rendered possible on the expiration of some weary term of suffering and of penance, and the parallelism which it presents to sacred history is well nigh completed when the legend tells us further that woman, his own wife, whose being was derived from his, had instigated the ambitious hopes which led to their expulsion, and entailed so many ills on their posterity. Hardwick, Charles, Christ and Other Masters, 4th edition, edited by Francis Procter, London, Macmillan and Co., 1875, page 215. A little long-winded? Perhaps a summary would be helpful. A summary quote. Our summary source and the location of our summary quote. The Hindu legend approaches very nearly to that preserved in the Hebrew Scriptures. Thus it is said that Siva, as the Supreme Being, desired to tempt Brahma, who had taken human form, and for this object he dropped from heaven a blossom of the sacred fig tree. Brahma, instigated by his wife Satarupa, endeavors to obtain this blossom, thinking its possession will render him immortal and divine. But when he has succeeded in doing so, he is cursed by Siva, and doomed to misery and degradation. Mr. Hardwick, when commenting on this tradition, adds that the sacred Indian fig is endowed by the Brahmins and Buddhists with mysterious significance, as the tree of knowledge or intelligence. Westrope, Hodder, Michael, and Charles Staniland, Wake. Ancient Symbol Worship, Influence of the Phallic Idea in the Religions of Antiquity. New York, J. W. Boughton, London, Trubner and Co., 1874, pages 46 through 47.